Ansu Fati has had a very weird, you could say, 1 month, 3 years, a decade at Barcelona, to a point where I have no idea where he stands, and I don't think he does. And after an entire month of it seemingly like everyone at the club, except maybe Hansi Flick, trying to convince him to leave, and then him staying, we're just left with a ton of questions, and we're going to go over all of that today. This entire transfer window, I think the big question for Barcelona after the Araujo situation was, is Ansu Fati going to leave? After all, it's been pretty disappointing for him for a pretty long time, and it would make sense for him to go somewhere else, break free of Barcelona, and try it out elsewhere. But as we all know, that didn't happen, right? He's still at the club. Rashford was talked about for a while as one of those options for Joan Laporta and Barcelona to sign, but that didn't happen, right? We just saw that Marcus Rashford signed for Aston Villa. He's going to be playing there for the next 6 months and maybe the foreseeable future. Who knows where he stands at Man United, but I do know that he's not at Barcelona right now, and we don't have a new left winger, meaning it's going to have to be Ansu, maybe, or at least he's probably going to have to be tried out in the squad because he's there. He's being paid 10 million euros to not play. 5 million net, that's a substantial amount of money for a player who doesn't play. So he's obviously going to have to play somewhere. But the question is, should he? Now, I don't know the type of player he is. I've watched almost every one of his Brighton matches. I've watched him play for Barcelona for the past 3 years, pretty much day in and day out. And every single time I'm left disappointed, more or less. But you guys know this, right? We could go on and on about him not having the confidence anymore, not being the same player he once was, not having the same agility that he did before the surgeries. But that's not really the point here. The point to me that's weirdest of all is that he didn't leave, that he didn't choose to go somewhere else to play more, to get more time, to get out of Barcelona, get a better understanding of football, start anew, because he's still so young. And that is the biggest issue for me here. Ansu is just, 22 years old? Yeah, he's just 22 years old. There's so much time to develop, and the best example of this is Ousmane Dembele. Barcelona signed him as a relatively young player, kept him for several years, where he was disappointing for the vast majority of that time. Yeah, sure, he did help us win the league in 22-23, and I think without him, we probably don't. But he didn't come to the player that we expected him to be for 120 million euros, but now, at 27 years old, at PSG, he's becoming that player. And I think that can start an entire conversation about the way we value young players today and our understanding of the development of players and how that is maybe wrong, but that's not the point of this video. It's all about Ansu Fati and where he's going to fit right now. With Ansu's profile being that inside striker, not pure winger role, it's taken up by a lot of guys ahead of him, right? Pau Victor has gotten a couple more minutes recently. Ferran Torres is obviously the next choice behind Lewandowski and Rafinha. And then there's Rafinha, who's absolutely lighting it up. And I don't think Ansu Fati even displaces or grabs any of the minutes from any of those guys. Now, Hansi may think differently than I do, because he did say that if Ansu Fati stays, he's going to implement him, he's going to help develop him, because he will be a player for Barcelona, and I think that's great. So I think Hansi is trying to keep that reputation decent and trying to keep him playing, or at least maybe wanting to play for Barcelona. So maybe he'll develop him. Maybe he'll actually try him out, and maybe Ansu Fati will shine. But guys, that maybe is something we have been saying for years, and it hasn't happened. What's different now? That Barcelona's good-ish, and Hansi Flick is different? Maybe Barcelona is playing so well right now, and Hansi Flick is such an exciting coach that the team has less pressure on it, and Ansu will have less pressure on him. But you would think that he would also have had less pressure at Brighton to succeed, and that should have freed him up, but he barely got minutes, at least when he was available, because there were other guys, and they finished like 9th in the Premier League last season, while Barcelona is fighting for the top 2 in La Liga, all the while coming in second barely in the Champions League. There's a lot going on there, and we expect Ansu to walk in. I just think that's wildly ambitious, and I think it's genuinely the wrong choice from Ansu. I think he should have gone. If I'm him, I'm listening to literally apparently everyone in his camp was telling him to leave Barcelona, but Ansu believed Hansi Flick when he said that he would get playing time, that he would be given the moments to play if he stayed at Barcelona, and so Ansu's going to give it a shot. It's ambitious, guys. It's just ambitious. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think he's getting paid too much for what he offers now and what he's offered for the past 2 years. But now it's just left in a position where I throw my hands up and whatever happens, happens. I don't think it's the right decision from the club or from Ansu, and I don't think the club is in that much of a better position with him in the squad. I know he has a good relationship with Balde and Lamine specifically. I don't know if maybe breaking that up would have hurt the squad, the dynamic, the morale in the squad, and maybe they don't want to break that up. That's maybe understandable as well, but I just don't know what Ansu has in his tank anymore, and I think it's very upsetting to be talking like this about a 22-year-old, because I think the state of football is wild that we have to judge players this early, but because Barcelona gave him such a major contract at such a young age, we have to have these conversations. If he was getting paid $3 million net even, or $2.5 million net, this conversation doesn't need to be had. But Barcelona are paying him so much. I think he's the third or fourth highest paid player in the squad, and he doesn't play. He's either injured or he's just not making the lineup. And I don't think that's the way it should be. We're not seeing enough for him to be justifying this, and so I think he needs to go. If I'm Barcelona, I'm trying to sell him immediately. But it's not really Ansu's fault either. He didn't make them pay him this much, right? They didn't have to. They gave him this crazy contract because they thought he was going to be a young superstar. And it scares me that they're going to do this with Lamine as well. You know, Lamine's a different case because Ansu got this crazy injury almost immediately into his development, didn't play nearly as much, and his skill range was slightly different in a way that he relied a little bit more on his explosiveness, in my opinion, that he was more susceptible to the damage that an injury could do to his career. But Lamine is apparently about to receive, I think, a crazy contract this summer when he turns 18, to the point making him the highest paid player at the squad, or making him eventually the highest paid player in the squad. It's a big risk, and it's putting so much pressure on these guys that it is not good. Marcus Rashford is 27, and everyone is looking at this move to Aston Villa like the end of his career. And I'm so incredibly surprised that United fans are acting like this, because it's only a loan. He's still on contract with United for, I think, 2 years. That's plenty of time for him to come back and figure it out. And we've seen Rashford play terribly and put it together again and play well, play fantastically, score 30 goals. And with Ansu, I don't think it's fair either, but because he is paid so much and he's not playing at all, we have to get rid of him. It's the only option, unless obviously he puts something together. So I'm hoping he does. Not only will that make the Ansu Fati story come back together in a beautiful way, but it'll also help out the team and see us out through 3 competitions at the moment, and see us play hopefully better as we're going forward in the season. So what do you guys think? Do you think Ansu should stay? Do you think he has a space in this squad? I've talked about this over and over again because I constantly think something's going to change, but it never does. And so I just hope it does someday. Something happens, some spark lights in him, or, he decides to leave, I think the Ajax move that was being discussed would have been perfect for him, but he chose not to do it. And, we'll see what happens. He's still incredibly young. I don't think his top 5 league football career is over by any stretch of the imagination. I just think his time at Barcelona should have been done in the winter, and hopefully, he can change my mind on that over the next couple months. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.